Now first, let me just say, this is an opinion piece. All of the views stated in this are my opinion for legal reasons, and all of the media that I use is for purposes of review and criticism. In this video, I'll be referring to the mainstream Australian media as the Murdoch media, as Murdoch owns most of the print media that then trickles down to broadcast networks like Seven, owned by Kerry Stokes, that then become an echo chamber for the Murdoch media propaganda machine. These are the organisations that are rallying the government, spearheaded by Murdoch, to push through the media bargaining legislation that threatens our open internet. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Hoochos. The Murdoch media stole my content. That's right, the same Murdoch media that's pushing the Australian government to legislate laws that will force Google and Facebook to pay them for directing traffic to their content. Now, to understand the hypocrisy in this entire situation, we need to dive a little deeper. As a YouTuber, there's a lot of pressure to stay in your lane. And I usually make videos about how to do stuff and more recently hydroponics. But I've been dragged kicking and screaming into this debate, and I'm not gonna sit on the sidelines while I'm the target of such hypocrisy. So for those American viewers that aren't up to date with Australian politics, essentially our government is controlled by big business and the Murdoch media. The reason for this is the Murdoch media have a monopoly on Australian media. At this point in time, there is even an Australian Royal Commission into the media monopoly that Rupert Murdoch has amassed within the country. A really good example of this media monopoly is here in my home state of Queensland, where Rupert Murdoch and News Corp own every single major newspaper in the state. This gives the Murdoch media unprecedented power when it comes to swaying elections or enabling the government to rally public opinion when it comes to major topics of discussion. This is why the Murdoch media have so much sway over the government. They essentially strong-arm the government into doing whatever they want. There's no better illustration of this than the latest internet censorship legislation that's now being passed through the Senate by the Liberal government. So I am here to tell you that the Australian government, specifically the Liberal government, is not acting in the interests of the Australian people in this scenario. So for all those overseas viewers, this is not what the average Australian wants, and it does not work in their favour. In fact, anyone that believes in a free and open internet, this does not work in your favour. What this does is it takes money and puts it into Rupert Murdoch's News Corp pockets. And the world is now watching because every other media organisation in every other country will be looking for the same deal. Now, here's Michael West of Michael West Independent Media explaining how independent publishers will not get the same deals as these large corporations. So for independent free media, this media bargaining deal is catastrophic.
So I spoke to a Google insider the other day about these multi-million-dollar payments that are going out to the media allies of the government. Before the code was even enacted, even brought into law, Google had struck deals with 7, 9 and News Limited, all the government's closest media allies, the people who do their propaganda for the government. Kerry Stokes over at 7, they picked up 10 million, and News Limited has picked up an unspecified amount, no doubt a lot of money from Google, and told me that unfortunately small independent publishers like myself had very little chance of picking up anything. Independent media, people like myself that that the public, that the community supports for good reason to provide an alternative, more fair income view of what's going on in the world, they've been disadvantaged severely.
So if you want to see the rest of that video, head over to the West Report on YouTube and check out his other videos. There's a ton of videos that expose corruption within the Australian government and media. So at a time where the Murdoch media are asking the government to step in on their behalf to the big tech giants, the big boys, trying to steal their content, what do you think 7 News goes and does? That's right, they stole a little guy's content and they posted it with no watermark or acknowledgement of where it came from. They ripped it from YouTube and they put it up as news. Here's the segment.
Instead of the traditional toad busting, capturing adults and freezing them, the challenge now is to trap them as tadpoles. A plastic box with a funnel in each side, the weapon of choice.
They don't die, it doesn't kill them, but they swim into the box and now you can dispose of them humanely too.
Wait, that's me. So now it's time for the review. 0 out of 10 cane toad tadpoles. So the original video is essentially just a video of me drinking beer, building a cane toad tadpole trap, and catching cane toad tadpoles. The reason we do this is so that we can control the population of cane toads in Queensland, which are an invasive pest that was introduced a long time ago to control another pest. Anyway, long story short, I was making a video trying to help people get rid of this Australian pest, and Channel 7 comes along, rips it off YouTube and says that it's their own content, which it's not. This is a blatant violation of copyright, and it's a really good example of the hypocrisy of the Murdoch media. Now, when this occurred, I reached out to 7 News for comment, and I sent them this letter, which I still have not had a reply to. The segment was actually uploaded to YouTube, and I asked YouTube to take the segment down for copyright violation of something that's on their own platform. And before YouTube had a chance to take it down, after I'd sent the letter to them, 7 actually removed the video or changed it to private themselves. If that's not an act of guilt, I don't know what is. Coincidentally or not, since all of this has occurred, Facebook has now banned all Australian news media from being posted on its platform. Now, I'm definitely not on Facebook's side most of the time, but go Facebook. In this one scenario, I'm right behind you. Block the hell out of them. Because they need to understand that if they play with our freedom, if they play with our internet, they're gonna lose. Now, if you are looking for trustworthy media sources, Michael West is a really good investigative journalist, which you should definitely check out. Or if you're looking for video content, check out Friendly Geordie's YouTube channel, which takes a satirical look at the Australian news and political landscape and gives some really good hardline criticism to a lot of the corruption that Australia faces. I'll also link in a really fantastic piece of investigative journalism by Al Jazeera, all about the media monopoly that Murdoch holds in Australia and how his tendrils actually reach out to America through his control over the Fox networks. Now, I don't want to stretch this out too long. I could go on forever about the Murdoch media and how they give extreme right voices a box to stand on, and climate change denialism by spreading lies like arsonists in a bushfire crisis. But I'm going to leave it there. I just wanted to point out the hypocrisy that happened to me, and I'm not a political channel, I'm not a political expert, but you can make your mind up yourself from the conclusions you draw from what I've presented you. Thanks for watching. I guess happy hydroponicking? Have a good one. I'll see you next time on Hoochos.